All right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome in Afternoon Live on the Maize and Blue Review. We're here weekdays at 1 o'clock. We're part of Rivals.com. We talk about the latest in Michigan sports today. We're going to look at some edge rushers. Also, it is that time of season where you do start looking at the NFL draft, if you haven't already. We'll be looking at it, and the interesting kind of intertwines. With the Lions with the number 2 pick, it was always going to intertwine a little bit with Michigan. You can, especially when you think about Aidan Hutchinson being there, likely the number 1 pick, but maybe he won't. And some other Michigan players in the spotlight today with a prominent mock drafter releasing another version of his mock draft today, which has people talking. It's interesting. We'll get to that. And a tweet from Mrs. Howard, a real maize and blue tweet that will be a treat. I'm going to try to string those things together. There it is. So that tweet, that'll be a treat from Mrs. Howard for Michigan fans. We will get to that, but we'll start taking a look at the edge rushers. And last year, Michigan had spectacular performances from David Ojabo and Aidan Hutchinson, and we all know what it ended up doing for U of M. It catapulted them to the top of the Big Ten with wins over Ohio State and Iowa. The Big Ten championship game got them to the college football playoff. 25 sacks is one of the things that you talk about with Michigan, how they're going to replace that production. We'll look a little bit at that, and then just where those pass rushers are headed in 2 weeks from tomorrow. We are going to find out. So when you do think about the Wolverines and the guys, we'll go through them about the edge rushers for Michigan, and we start with the scholarship chart, and you do have as up at the top there, number 91, Taylor Upshaw. And then right behind him, Mike Morris and Gabe Newberg in the 2019 class, 2020, Braden McGregor, Jalen Harrell, who you saw out on the field a lot last year, George Rooks, TJ Guy, Keyshawn Bennett. If you were really watching the spring game closely, you saw those guys. And somebody that was wearing number 8 that stood out as I went down to the corner of the end zone in the spring game, Derek Moore, incoming freshman who was in for spring. He he could get some playing time this year. When you look to recruiting, which you're always looking to recruiting, especially this time of year. I don't know if it's especially, maybe it's always. The Wolverines also have a commitment out of Illinois, Brooks Bahr. We got some of his video lined up here for you to take a look at, and just watch a couple snaps of a future Wolverine, see if anything jumps out to us here as we look at Brooks' tape, highlight reel tape here. There he is coming off the edge, getting to the quarterback. I don't know if that was his high school's version of Ojabo and Hutchinson. Looked like Ojabo got to him first, and then Hutchinson cleaning up there. Big kid in the rush edge, able to get to the quarterback there. It's fun watching highlight reel. You probably wonder this yourself if you played any high school sports. If you just took your best 5 to 10 plays, if you have had 5 to 10 plays, and put them all together in a highlight tape, and then had people like breaking it down, like, man, what do you think of this guy? I could probably come up with 10 plays, and now it'd be pretty grainy, but I was wondering, like, hey, pretty good looking shot, nice passer. Look at him. Can also get quick hands. Pretty good defender. I don't know. We'll see. We'll watch one more snap here from Brooks Bahr. out of Illinois, wearing number 99. Big kid. Really put a lot of you say Aidan Hutchinson, he's wearing 99, which is pretty close to Hutchinson's number. Big tall white kid as a defensive end. Yeah, he could be. He's a David Ojabo and Aidan Hutchinson. It looks like to be his comp. So there it is. Brooks Bahr. Remember the name. There he is. Looking back to Michigan, let's look at some of the guys that will be on the field next year trying to replace Hutchinson and Ojabo. There's Taylor Upshaw, played 125 snaps last year, grad student now. And Jalen Harrell, who played 168 snaps, right defensive end, outside linebacker. He was on the field, when it looked like it was going to be a running situation, he'd be on the field more than Ojabo. Ken Harrell, right? He looks the part. And would you rather have a guy that could just speed, burn off the edge and get to the quarterback, or would you rather have somebody that could get in there and stop the run as well? Good question. Good question. Since you want both, but if you can stop the run, does that mean that you can get to the quarterback? And if you can get to the quarterback, so no, it doesn't mean you want to be able to do both of them because of the passing game. If I had the choice there, would I rather have an expert pass rusher or a guy that would be expert against the run? I would take the pass rusher because college football, pro football is more slanted toward the passing game. So being able to get after the QB, but you do want both, and it's no slight on Harrell. Maybe he can do both. Looking at some of the other guys in the two deep, Braden McGregor, I know he gets talked about a lot. Kind of looks like Hutchinson there. If you threw Hutchinson's sophomore picture up there, you can say, hey, there's Aidan Hutchinson, but McGregor there didn't get talked about as much or jump out in the spring, maybe as much as you want if you're, a huge McGregor fan, but he is in the mix. TJ Guy as well. Same thing. TJ Guy did stand out. Sometimes when you go to a game, you just have the perfect angle to see a player, and it was in the first half. I was going to say first quarter, but definitely in the first half. I'm sitting there down in the right corner of the end zone, the southwest end zone, and I look, and it's about at the 45. I see 42 coming in, making a big time tackle, and I was like, all right, mark that down, Guy. So he caught my eye. Guy did in the spring game. Now, when we look at the possibility of the starters and how it will look in a two deep, and Michigan mixes things around, that. But if this Saturday was September the 3rd, that would be fast. But if it was, I think you'd guess with Michigan coming out with 91, 90, and 32, two of those three as the starting defensive ends. Based on what would you base it on? Well, how well these guys performed in the spring to get that first start. If you go by class, a lot of times that happens. You'd get Upshaw and Morris if it was done that way with seniority. If you're going on who had the best best fall camp, how would we know? But it wouldn't be a huge surprise if it was, let's say, 90 and 32 or 91 and 32 or 91 and 90. Those three guys, I think you're going to see get the majority of the snaps at defensive end. But as has been pointed out a few times, as I have gone through some of these two deeps and talked about the upcoming season, because Michigan plays Colorado State, Hawaii, UConn, and Maryland, those are four games where they're going to be double-digit favorites where you think that they should be able to play a lot of guys, and things can change around just in that. We talk about that mostly with the quarterback position, like who's going to be the quarterback, and that they were able to get over the spring hump without anybody transferring, talking about either Cade McNamara or JJ McCarthy, with getting either of those guys transferring, those guys going into fall and competing, yeah, you're going to name a starter at some point, and it is probably going to be Cade McNamara, but JJ is going to play, and they've got 4 games. I know that you a lot of times people like that's hedging your bet or sitting on the fence saying that they're going to compete into fall camp. How about make a decision? If you're talking to me or you're talking to Jim Harbaugh, because if you're talking to me, I can guarantee you that if they're both ready to go, that they are going to both play a bunch. McCarthy played a little bit last year, but if you go back and look at the games against Western and Northern Illinois, and you look at McCarthy's snaps, because those games got out of hand, he was able to get a lot of playing time. Could you see a 50-50 split with these guys in those games if things go as planned? You could get something close to that, and you can mix it up any way you want. If it's that close, you could give McNamara the start against Colorado State. You could give McCarthy the start against Hawaii. You could alternate that until you get to October the 1st when they go to Iowa. Then you're going to have to make a decision. So it's the same thing with any of the other positions that we have here. But all the other positions you are used to guys rotating in, except with the offensive line, you don't see much of that. But every other position besides quarterback and offensive line, you'll get guys coming out and getting a rest. And even last year with the 2 most productive rush edges that Michigan ever had, and 25 sacks, and going to get a first-round pick and maybe 2 first-round picks, you still had Upshaw and Harrell and Morris, although Morris sometimes played inside. You still had those guys getting sacks. There was still a rotation there. So it happens. We do see that. As we move from, there's the 2 deep. Most Michigan fans can recite that right now. They know it's going to be a mixture of Harrell, Upshaw, and Morris. Mel Kiper Jr. This morning released his latest mock draft, and it's interesting for a number of reasons, and let's get to some of those right now. First, before we do that, I wanted to put up that quote that Jim Harbaugh had on some of the defensive ends and rush ends. He said they're really a list of guys they're excited about: Braden McGregor, Mike Morris. He said just the state of Michigan football is scary good right now. Jim Harbaugh went on to say Mike Morris could be the next Aidan Hutchinson, Ojabo. There's really some exciting things going on the defensive line. You hear that, you hear off-season things like, but when you have the coach saying that Mike Morris could be the next Aidan Hutchinson, that's something that you note and you tuck in somewhere about, fall or next season. And, you're saying, when somebody asks, who is going to be if there was just one guy. Now, we just went through 3, 4, 5 guys. But if you said who's going to be the one guy that could be the next Ojabo or Hutchinson, because of what Harbaugh had to say there, I think that saying Mike Morris would be the guy, would be the right way to go about that. And that's the way I'm going about it. I think that's the way you're going about it. It's the way you should go about it. But, not everything that the coaches say always, there's different reasons that they say guys, but at this point right now, I think Morris is a safe bet to go out. Who's going to replace Hutchinson or Ojabo? Mike Morris is the top guy there. All right, here's Kiper. Kiper making news today. Interesting mock draft. Here's another graph of Morris, black and white, looking pretty good photo-wise. Now here is Mr. Kiper. He released his latest 2-round mock draft. And in that, up at the top, there had been a little bit of talk, and there's going to be more, about Aidan Hutchinson possibly not getting selected number 1 overall. But Kiper does have the Jags going with the edge from Michigan and Hutchinson. And you're a Michigan fan. Do you want Aidan Hutchinson to be drafted number 1 overall? If it was somebody else besides, behind Jacksonville, like you have two of the franchises here that if you could vote, hey, who would you not want to be drafted most by? These would be the two teams that would win, not just because they were the two worst teams last year annually. These are the franchises. I know Lion fans want to get away from that. I understand that. I wouldn't mind seeing that myself, but right now it is the case. But anyways, having the number one overall 1-1. Hey, it's good for Michigan. It's good for Hutchinson. It's more money. And how far do you want them to fall? You don't want them to fall, you know, out of the top five or out of the top. Do you want them to go number one? Aidan Hutchinson, number one. The interesting part from Kiper is that this would get Lion fans going nuts. If the Lions picked Sauce Gardner out of Cincinnati, a corner, and maybe Sauce Gardner is going to be a great corner. Maybe he'll be a generational corner. The Lions just picked a corner of 2-3 years ago, and he wasn't ready to go, and then he tore his Achilles, and that doesn't have anything to do with Sauce Gardner except that he plays the same position, and it just it would fall into the line of feeling like that's very Lion-esque. You don't want to take corners and tight ends and safeties with the number two pick. You take a quarterback, you take a left tackle, you take an edge rusher. Those are the kind of picks that you select. These are the most valuable positions on the football field. You don't have to take my word for it. You look at the franchise tags for those positions. It's quarterback, it's left tackle, it's rush edge. You look at the top 10 salaries, although wide receiver just did get a bump with some of the, let's say outrageous, just with some of the contracts that were handed out to wide receivers, but you better be a great wide receiver. And there's not a wide receiver that the Lions are looking to take at number two, but Sauce Gardner is the one that it gets you thinking, what are these guys crazy? As it concerns with Michigan and the Lions, they do end up mixing up here when it comes to Mel Kiper and this mock draft that he released today, because here's what Kiper had to say about the Lions' first three picks. Remember, the Lions got the Rams pick for trading a Matt Stafford, and then they have the second pick of the second round. The first three picks, Kiper has Sauce Gardner, safety out of Georgia, Lewis Thine, and then David Ojabo at number 34. Now, if the Lions got David Ojabo at number 32, or 34, sorry, I think he would be in the running. If you're getting him at 34 and you're taking him, you're probably considering him at 32. Wouldn't it be interesting if the Lions, like I said, I want to see Hutchinson go to the Jags, but what if the Jags did go with a tackle and then Hutchinson fell in their lap and then they did go with Ojabo? You can have the Michigan connection there. Stranger things have happened, but it's not the craziest projection to think that you could get Hutchinson and you could get Ojabo. Talk about sack production, edge rushing ability. Guys, two picks that were considered top 10 because of the Achilles tear. With Ojabo and this mock, him falling early to the second round, it is a possibility. Interesting that Mel Kiper came up with that. A couple other notes from this 2-round mock that Kiper put out today. This is what he had to say about Ojabo going to the Lions. He said, Ojabo's my top-ranked outside linebacker, even after he tore his Achilles last month, and could miss most of the season. If the Lions are thinking long-term, they could get a steal with a high-ceiling edge rusher. That's what Mel Kiper had to say about the possibility of Ojabo falling to the Lions. The Lions are taking the long view. The Lions are thinking long-term. So Ojabo, you look at it, we talk about tanking. I haven't talked much about it here on Afternoon Live. There's a time and place. You don't really like doing it. It's not fun to do. Maybe once, every 10 years, you think about that you have to go through it. The Lions have been going through this is going to be a process for the Lions. All of it being said here, Ojabo, the Lions are thinking long term. So Ojabo, if he makes it to 34, I think is totally in play here for the Detroit Lions. Not thinking about getting him on the field. You don't have to play him this year. You're thinking about next year. And so, yeah, I think that what Kiper has to say there, he is spot on. The 2-round mock, because you see Ojabo falling to the second pick here. How about Dax Hill? Projected by Mel Kiper as a first rounder 2 weeks from tomorrow, going to the Bills at 25. How about that? Kiper saying 10 days ago that Daxton Hill looked like a first-round pick to him. Here's the quote from Kiper on Daxton Hill. NFL teams love his versatility. He played more than 550 snaps at nickelback last year and think he could play both corner and safety. He might be a slot corner if he ends up in Buffalo, which lost Levi Wallace in free agency and has Tre'Davious White returning from an ACL tear. Flexibility, versatility, and ran a blazing fast 40 time. It wouldn't surprise me if Daxton Hill. That's what I was even talking about. Thinking about the combination of getting both Hutchinson and Ojabo. I don't know if it was a couple months ago, a couple weeks ago, whatever it was. Thinking about what about Hutchinson if he did not go to Jacksonville and Detroit and he fell in their lap and the Lions took Aidan Hutchinson, and then at 32 or 34, taking Daxton Hill. The Michigan connection. I would like that. I wouldn't mind any of those scenarios, but like I said, I want Hutchinson to go number one. And yeah, do you want Ojabo to get picked in the first round? Sure. Because then you're like, hey, Michigan had 3 first-round picks. But if, he fell to the Lions early in the second, that would be fine. All of those kind of things are the things you think about. All right, this is the tweet that I wanted to set up for you here. And this is, Monday I mentioned it because there was the Lakers fired their head coach, and there was it was a rumor website that put together a couple of names. But then Shams Charania yesterday or late Monday night, he reported that, he did. He reported it and said that, don't be surprised. I forgot exactly how he put it. If, Jenine Howard would emerge on a short list or whatever for the Lakers job, then we talked about it a little bit. And then that same rumor site came back and they had a quote from a writer from a Los Angeles paper saying that Jenine Howard, both of his kids are going to be playing for Michigan. So, just to set that up. And, we all looked at it. We didn't think Jenine was going anywhere. I would have been a surprise, but it was the Lakers. They do make news. And so it was at least worth mentioning. Jenine's wife yesterday, in response to that report that said Jenine Howard wants to stay at Michigan to coach his sons, the Lakers Daily, Jenine Howard took to Twitter yesterday at 5:13. And here's her tweet. I also wish they would stop making about, I'm sorry, let me start this over. I also wish they would stop making it about his sons. He is excited to coach every kid here. He wants to win a championship. That's the focus. Oh, Michigan fans. You like seeing that if you're a Wolverines fan. Jenine Howard, she's an interesting follow on Twitter during games. Sometimes she'll say things about, let's get 25 in there. And here is her best tweet in my mind so far, at Jenine Howard, wishing that they would stop making about, quote, she got quotes around his sons. He's very excited to coach every, and she has coach every. And for those that are not watching this, and are just listening to the pod, she has coach every she has coach, a capital C, every is in all caps. He wants to win a championship. That's the focus. So if you're a Michigan basketball fan, you like what Jenine Howard's doing, and 99% of you should like. I mean, 100% of you should. I think 99% of you probably do. He was good the first year. They didn't have a tournament. He was great, as great as you can get without getting to the Final Four in his second year. Came a shot away, and then last year it wasn't great, but getting to the tournament and then winning a couple games. Not that it was satisfactory, but the way that it started, the program's in good hands. The way recruiting's going, I like where it's at. I think 99% of you do as well. And you really like hearing that Jenine wants to win a championship. That's the focus. Not about coaching his sons. It's about coaching every kid at Michigan, and the focus being on winning a championship. Now that is something that, if you're a Michigan fan, you can get behind. How about that from Mrs. Howard? Great job. Coming up tomorrow, continue looking at what's going on with Michigan. And any of these, it's Michigan with the possibility of having 3 first-rounders, all the moving and shaking that's going on. You get into a week from now, I think we will be zeroing in like a lot of people on that NFL draft. But, we've talked about the rush edgers. So where are we going to go? How about those inside? The tackles, the nose guards, the defensive tackles, the 3 technique, the 5 technique. We'll look at that depth chart and we'll project them. Michigan's got a pretty good one on that defensive line, middle guard there for the Wolverines. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. Anything else breaking? Thanks for watching here to Afternoon Live, the Maize and Blue Review. We're here weekdays at 1 o'clock. Is it raining? It said it was going to rain. It looks like it's raining. I hope everybody has a great rest of your day here this Wednesday, and we'll talk